should I actually put down a deposit or not?
It's not necessarily when we're looking at putting a down payment or putting deposit. It's not that thing that every time, you know what, I would rather have a no money down deal and I'm going to own a property than be telling everybody that, you know what, I bought this no money down deal.
Let's think about equity that you can actually pull out from this particular property. Hey there, hey there, hey there.
Hi everybody, you are tuned in to Know Wealth. My name is Nell.
And my name is Lev. Today we are actually going to talk about, should I actually put down a deposit or not?
Yes, we also refer to deposit as down payment. So this is the money that you should be having at the initial stage of the investment.
So now please don't say that, down payment, what are you talking about? Down payment is the same thing as your deposit. So now before we jump into the content, please do remember that on the 30th of January 2021, we'll be hosting our business launch. So you are actually invited, but now you need to send an RSVP to our email, propertyevents@knowwealth.co.za.
See you then. And also, before we get started, I would like to hear your thoughts, because we've noticed that with the property investors that we have been engaging with as our clients, we've noticed that there's so many people that will be like, you know what, I am for deposit. And other people are like, you know what, I'm not for deposit. So we'd like to hear your thoughts about deposit. Are you for deposits or not?
Let's jump into content. So now, Nell, do you think that deposit is important to actually put down before you go into the property?
Before we even look at that, we should look at something that is very important to understand, that you should, especially if you're a beginner or it's the first time that you are entering the property market, you should have that reserve of the deposit. You should have money that you know that worst case scenario, if the bank will say, you know what, we demand X amount, that whether it's 30% or whether it's 20% deposit from you, you should know that you do have that money, so that you don't find yourself in a situation whereby, okay, you are like, I'm not paying deposit, I want 100%, only to find out that once the bond originator comes back to you and they be like, you know what, the bank looked at your situation and they are saying that you need to put 20% down. And now if you do not have that money, it is going to become a problem. So I emphasize that you should have that money and you should have access to that money, so that, especially if it's for investing purposes. Imagine paying your transfers and all of that, only to find out that you do not have the money for deposit. You don't want to find yourself in that situation.
I mean, just to be on the real, right? Yeah. Not everyone's credit score is the same, right? So now I might have a good credit score and go to the bank and ask for a home loan, and then they actually offer me 105%. And I actually go around raving that I got a 105%. That's a no money down deal. I actually got money to actually pay my transfers, right? But now looking at someone else who has the entry level standard of actually getting a particular property, then it becomes a problem for them to actually get 105% on the bond. So now always make sure that before you actually invest in a particular property, make sure that you do have a down payment of at least 10%. If you can at least secure 10% of a down payment before you actually buy a property, so that when the bank actually does come back to you and tell you that you need to put down 10%, it doesn't become a shock that, oh no, I hadn't actually thought about that particular part. Because now the last thing that you want is that you are actually investing in this particular property only to find out that when you're supposed to put in the down payment, you do not have it.
So going back to the question, should I pay the deposit or not? I mean, for me, it differs from one case to another, even from one strategy to another. I know when I'm looking at for flip purpose, as much as I wouldn't like to put any money down, I know that that money that I have, if the bank does say, you know what, 100%, you can go into this deal without putting any money down in terms of deposit, and then I'll be paying my transfers, and the money that I have, I can secure it or I can use it towards renovations. You know that you're better equipped. And then when I'm looking at my rentals, rather, I'm going to sit down. And hence, we're always talking about the back office. Hence, we're always talking about crunching the numbers. When I sit down and then I look down, you know what? If I'm not putting X amount, how much am I going to get in terms of return on investment? Because at the end of the day, what's going to motivate me with this particular deal when it comes to rental is, if I'm going to be putting 30% down versus if I don't put any money down in terms of deposit. Now, when I'm looking at my percentages, I can see that I'm getting more return on investment when I put the 30% down, or I'm getting more return on investment putting no money down for deposit. Then I know which route to take. So it's more informed by what is the return on investment that I will be getting, because at the end of the day, I should also be thinking about interest. the amount of deposit that I'll be putting down, it will have a direct impact to the interest that I'll be charged.
I like that you actually talked about that, right? So now, when you're looking at paying down a deposit, let's think about equity that you can actually pull out from this particular property. Remember now, if I am actually going to be buying a property with no money down deal, right? No money down. If I'm going to actually be buying that deal and saying that I'm not putting any money down, but now I'm getting a return on investment of 50%, but now only to find out that my total rent that I'm actually getting, right, it's around 300 rand. I'm only left with 300 rand. That creates a problem for you as a property investor. Because now what happens if the tenant needs to move out from that particular property? How soon can you actually get the money from that particular tenant? So now say for instance, if we're looking at basic house that is actually giving you a rental amount of 6,000 on a monthly base, and you are left with 1,500. So now it will only take you 4 months for you to actually come back and have a full month's rent, so that if nobody's in the particular property, you can actually pay out that 6,000 rand on a monthly basis. So now let's put it back into the 300 case. So now if you have the 300 and now it's in the same scenario and you didn't have to put any money down, right? How long is it actually going to take you to get that 6,000 if nobody's in that particular property? It becomes then a problem. Also with leveraging, how do I leverage off the equity that I have right now? So now I know what the jargon that is going around. Let me just break it down. So now when you're looking at equity, you're looking at how much do you own from that particular property. So now if you are looking at yourself and the bank as partners, right? The bank would say that, okay, I'm actually going to give you 100%, right? It means that the bank fully owns that particular property. So now you can control the property and its income, but now the bank owns 100% of it. But now if you're only putting down 30% of it, it means that you own 30% of the particular property and the bank owns 70% of the property. So now in that way, the equity that you have is 30% of the value of the particular property. So now if we are going to be looking at that, once you start now going to the advanced side and you start trying to refinance the particular money from that property, it then becomes a problem if you do not have any money down in this particular property. Because now if I have 30% in this particular property, the bank then knows that, okay, this person does know what they're doing. But now if you're going to do 100%, it then becomes a problem.
And it's clear with what you just said right now is that it's not necessarily when we're looking at putting a down payment or putting deposit, it's not that thing that every time, you know what, I would rather have a no money down deal and I'm going to own a property and then be telling everybody that, you know what, I bought this no money down deal, because the effect of that is that I'll be looking at leveraging. How am I going to grow my property portfolio? Will I be able to refinance? So it's clear that with property investing, this is what we're always speaking about. With property investing, there's a science to it, there's a back office to it, and it's not necessarily looking at a property on Property 24 on private property, then saying that, you know what, I'm going for this property and I'm going to make money. I'm going to force money out of that property. There's so much that actually goes into it that people find themselves in a situation whereby I was excited that I got a no money down deal in terms of no deposit. However, now I can't grow. This is one of the videos that we actually put up. Why do I actually feel stuck in my journey? Some people, if you do not understand the laws of leveraging, if you do not understand the impact of deposit, then you can find yourself in a situation. So with property investing, I always tell levelers that it's very important to become a seasoned. It's very important to become a seasoned property investor. So what are we speaking about when we're saying seasoned property investor? You know that plus it's December time. So you know that there's bright time and you know that meat that's got so much flavors. You need to become like that with property investing. You need to know that if I'm not putting a deposit, what are the pros and what are the cons? And there's so many pros to them and there's also so many cons to it. It depends again on the situation that you're in. As we did mention that it will also depend even with the strategy, whether it's flip or rental. Even with flip, sometimes somebody will say, you know what, I rather prefer putting a deposit down. And there's so many factors that will actually make somebody to take that decision. However, it should be an informed decision that is based on rational facts.
So now just to sum everything up, right? Yeah. Looking at our strategy, I'm about to give you the secret sauce. Looking at our strategy, when we are about to flip a property, I don't want to put any money down. I want to put as less money down. If it is possible for me to actually get a 105%, I'm going to actually take that 105%. But now, if I'm going to be looking at a long-term strategy, right? If I'm going to be buying this particular property to hold it for the long term, I'm looking at least putting down a down payment of 10%. I know some people with the bigger units, they say that they look at 25%, but now when you're looking at your residential, your normal houses, right, you're looking at a minimum of 10%, so that you know that if you do want to actually refinance and you got it below market value, you can have that particular option.
We hope that this did bring value to you, and we hope that you did RSVP. As we did mention, we're only taking 50 people for our business launch next year, which will be on the 30th of January 2021. See you there. If you haven't subscribed, it is a problem and you need to subscribe.
So the event will be at the Bryanston Country Club.
Can't wait.
It's a golf club. And you are invited. All you just need to do is to RSVP.
See you then. Long well.
Signing out.